Welcome to Venatour, and I'm really honoured. And a mate of mine, Sean Holley, who knows more about rugby than the majority of people in posts in the game at the moment. But Sean, what a World Cup is going to be. Welcome, mate.
Great, says the former British Lion, by the way. But no, yeah, what a World Cup. Coach, I just can't wait for it. It seems like it's been a long time coming, but all of a sudden now, bang, it's right on us. And gearing up here at Venatour today to talk about the tours and stuff. Of course, I'm Welsh biased. I've got a load of crazy Welshies that I'm going to mad tap. So we're going to go to Japan and try and take that William Webb Ellis Trophy. But it's such an open World Cup, and I can't wait to get out there.
I mean, you talk about the Welsh. The Welsh were fantastic in the Six Nations. Deservedly won the Six Nations the last time over. But for me, I get the feeling going round, and I was up in London in the week and seeing Ian McGeechan in South African Del Port, Tunis, and Stuart Barnes, Ian Roms. Everybody seems to be that for once. The Six Nations, the home nations, put that way, have got a real chance.
They have. Well, the Northern Hemisphere rugby has really caught up with the Southern Hemisphere in this last couple of years, certainly since the last World Cup. And of course, I think everybody's been buoyed by the fact that Ireland have rolled the All Blacks, that South African rugby and Australian rugby has taken a dip. England are always really strong, and Wales winning the Six Nations, perhaps a little bit under the radar. You know, there's a lot of confidence up in the north now, but you know, you look at that top five of the world rankings. Wales are ranked second in the world. Ireland ranked
unbelievable, and deservedly so. Because I mean, we were talking about it earlier on. A one-off game. Who would bet against Wales playing anybody in the world? One-off game. Alan Wynne-Jones psyching up his defence, his forwards. You know, just frustrating people like they did at England at the Millennium. Just letting them go out of shape. Just defence, aggressive attacking defence, and then all of a sudden, let's do a bit. They're in with a shout. I really do think so.
They are in with a shout. You know, Australia always time it right in World Cups, as you know.
And they've just got a big boost of Pollock maybe in being fit back, coming back for the World Cup. Him and Hooper, they're a different side when their pair of them play.
Yeah, they are. And as you rightly said, you know, Wales rely heavily on Alan Wynne-Jones. He's such a talisman. Six Nations Player of the Year. You know, we weren't favourites even at home to play and beat England, but you know, they did it really well in the second half. And then I was there for the Ireland game, the Grand Slam match, and they looked so comfortable. I think
I was there,
Sean Edwards has a lot to be, you know, we need to be thankful for his defence. But as well, Cooch, there's the Gats factor, the Gat father. You know, it's his last sort of swan song with Wales, and the boys will really want to, you know, show their gratitude for what he's done for Welsh rugby. But, you know, having said that, yes, we expect Wales and England and Ireland to get out of their groups, and it's all down to the knockout stages, and it's anyone's game.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even people, just before we go on to somebody like Scotland who can cause problems on the one-off game, England, we know, France have had an awful Six Nations, but you know, they always seem to perform in World Cups. They've got a really good record. But we've got the pre-tournament games coming up. You know, any news on what Gatlin? We talked about Gats. What is he? Is he going to pick a full side, a mixed side? Have people swapping and changing? Rest. I mean, you mentioned Alan Wynne.
Yeah.
I mean, if he got injured,
I know.
You could literally say the Welsh effort would be diminished.
Yeah, you know. When the pre-World Cup friendlies came out, I was like, as a former coach myself, having coached Wales, I was like, oh my God, Ireland twice, England twice. You know, I'd be happy with this just, you know, let's have one little friendly game behind closed doors and then get into it. But, you know, that's the way of the world now. There's money involved. There's big crowds going to be at these games. Everybody wants to see who's jockeying for position. But I agree with you. If I was Warren, I'd wrap Alan Wynne-Jones, maybe Jonathan Davis, Justin Tipuric. I'd wrap him up in cotton wool. But, you know, my sources tell me they've had a brilliant training camp out in Turkey, out in Switzerland. They're really physically ready. And I think they might go full pump against England in the two England games. Wow. Imagine that.
And, of course, we don't know what England's going to do. Dear old Eddie Jones can do anything. So it's going to be interesting what he picks this week. But, you know, going back, let's forget, let's I talk about Scotland, England, Wales, Ireland fondly. The French not so much, you know, with the greatest respect. But they do well in World Cups.
Yeah, they do.
Big side if they get it right.
And you mentioned earlier about one-off games. You know, when you get into a World Cup, there always seems to be some of the best games that have ever been in rugby football have been in World Cups because they raise their game. You know, they're really on their mettle. They've all had big pre-season training into it, all pretty fresh. So, you know, France are dangerous as they've shown. And, you know, I'm looking at the draw. Wales possibly could get them. Another one for me, Cooch, is Argentina. The Jaguares have gone so well in Super Rugby. Argentina in the rugby championship.
Well, England's pool, that could be dangerous because England's got France and Argentina.
Yeah.
England only got to have one of their Farrell missed kicking days, and we're in, the game's in the balance.
The secret for me, I think, the best international coaches for me, Cooch, are the best selectors. That's where Warren Gatton has been really good. Joe Schmidt in the recent past. I think Eddie needs to get his selection right. He's got such a pool of talented players to pick from. If he gets it right, England for me are one of the favourites, but that's a big if.
Yeah.
Is Cipriani going to make it?
Well, they say no, and I've just done a little bit to Venatour TV a minute ago about Cipriani, and everybody seems to think he could be a changer if he's managed properly. The problem is Martin Johnson in the past, Eddie Jones don't seem to want to manage him. They just want to write him off. When you've got somebody who's so talented, you'd think that he could be, because he can bring so much difference.
Well, you'd like him in your team.
Absolutely, and I know every asshole proper. You know what I mean? I would love him in my side. But we talked enough of Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere. I was with Tina Delport over the weekend, the great All Black and South African. And he was saying the confidence that South Africa have now got with that draw recently with the All Blacks. The All Blacks, for the first time in my lifetime, I sort of see them as being a bit vulnerable.
Yeah.
They don't quite know whether to kick or run or what selection. They got Barrett going back to, who's a world-class player, going back to fullback when really he should be 10.
Yeah.
But he can't place kick. So, it's or inconsistent place kick.
Yeah.
For the first time, South Africa look like they're slightly edging upwards, where New Zealand look very vulnerable at the moment.
I thought South Africa were probably a little bit disappointed to get the draw. That shows how confident they are at the moment. How they've come on. They really have progressed in the last year or two, really got it out. Rassie Erasmus has a lot to a big say in that, obviously, as the new head coach. And I agree with Tines, they're such a physical force. In a competition like a World Cup, a campaign, injuries take.
And you know what, South Africans, it's in their DNA. If they're confident,
absolutely,
woe beside.
Massive men all around the park, and then Colby on the wing is so exciting, one of those mercurial players. So I think South Africa, really are one of the teams to watch in there. Australia not so much, but New Zealand, Cooch, come on.
Yeah.
They're always the favourites.
And they should still be.
They still should be. I think Bowden Barrett will end up at 10. I think they're tinkering around if he gets an injury, or in one of the lesser pool games, can we move them around a little bit and play a few others? But for me, it's about the Boiler House. Whiteglot and Retallick are just.
Well, Retallick went off injured last time and dislocated shoulder, and I've done that in my own, down at Connettley and Leicester. I know what it's like, and it's leaving it very tight for him to be back, and he is one of, if not the world's greatest second row, barring Alan Jones when Jones is coming to the end. But it's going to be a big loss if he's not playing for them.
It'd be a massive loss, and there's a lot of talk over whether or not Kieran Reid is just a little bit over the hill now. I think he's retiring after the World Cup, international rugby. He's been a real talisman for.
But also New Zealand would want to send him off with a win.
Well, that's it.
There's pros and cons.
And there's the Steve Hansen factor as well. Now he's moving on as well. He's already won a World Cup. That experience when it, will take its toll. But the fact that we're going to Japan. It's always been in a massive rugby nation country, isn't it, the World Cup? All of a sudden we're going somewhere almost neutral territory.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the teams are thinking, well, if we're going to get the All Blacks, we're going to get them off their patch, out of a usual sort of suspect stadium, and there's a chance of beating them. So,
exactly.
It's really hard to predict, Coach.
And we talked very briefly about Australia. And the confidence factor, if Pollock comes back, comes into the side, is going to be huge. They seem worried that they're going under the radar a little bit. Yeah. And, you just get reports coming out of New Zealand and South Africa saying that their scrum have changed. Yeah. We all know if you take them on at front five, they're just trying to play sevens and we've got them beat. But if they get their front five, which we've always known for decades, if they get their front five right, when I played Australia, they had a front five that was second to none. But they've lost that since then. If they get their front five right, they're going to be back in with a chance, because with their back row, they're finishing, and it just worries me as an Englishman or a Northern Hemisphere supporter, not France. It just helps it worries me that they're going so far under the radar. No, everybody's writing them off.
Yeah. Well, they've always
worrying.
When they've had, like, you know more than me, but when they've had good front fives, they've done really well in World Cups. Yeah. You know, the big question mark over Australia is whether or not the Israel Folau saga has taken its toll. Yeah. You know, that's going on further, as we know now, in World Rugby. And another interesting twist is that Michael Cheika's under pressure, and a guy who used to coach Wales, Scott Johnson, has now gone down as the head of Australian rugby. And even though it's only been a short time, he will have a massive impact behind the scenes. So, you know, there's a bit like we've seen in the Australian cricket team who've had their doldrums. You know, will the Wallabies come out the other end of this Folau business a bit stronger mentally, you know, react with tighter, you know, sort of ring fence themselves, and then unfortunately they're in Wales's group. Well, you know, but we've got them quite early in the tournament.
It's interesting to Cheika, you know, he seems to play the mind games but lose every time. He seems to lose to Eddie Jones on the mind games. Certainly loses every time against Warren Gatlin. You know, he tends to play, and Hansen as well, he tends to play this sort of, you know, media stuff before and always seems to come off second best.
I coached
Why don't you just you have?
Go on, when he was at Leinster and I was at the Ospreys, and he's a very fiery character, you know. He does back his players. He's a former Randwick back row. He's got a bit of an edge. Actually played with Eddie Jones at Randwick, so, you know, he's got a bit of an edge to him, but he's a bit of a Marmite sort of character. But as I say, Scott Johnson behind the scenes, you know, Pocock comes back and they galvanise themselves around these issues. They could be a real dangerous team.
Well, that's it. We've talked really Northern Hemisphere. Well, we've talked World Cup, haven't we? For me, Japan is going to be intriguing. You know, everything from the bullet train to, you know, seeing the sights of Tokyo. It's something that'd be new to majority of rugby supporters. I mean, I know both of us are looking forward to it.
I've never been there, and what a great excuse for all the supporters, you know, to go to a place like Japan. One of our great ambassadors, Shane Williams, the former World Player of the Year, he had 3 years in Mitsubishi out there. I've been talking a lot to Shane. He said you'll experience nothing like it, particularly in that sort of Tokyo area. It's so cosmopolitan. You know, so many different things to do. You know, they can't wait to have us over there. All of the fans, the Japanese. He says that the Japanese people think they're going to win the World Cup, and I got to be honest with you, if you're looking for somebody who's a bit of an outsider,
there you are. Put a couple of yen on them.
Why not? Jamie Joseph has had them. He's ring fenced all their best players, taken them out of Super Rugby. He's had them a long time. They play first up against Russia, get a good win there. They could cause an upset in the pool, get the quarter final.
I'm trying to remember now off the top of my head who's in their pool. Russia, who's
Scotland,
the big?
I think.
Oh, Scotland,
Samoa.
So they could quite easily do well against Scotland, because we know Scotland, we've said, can cause problems, but they also can struggle against sides that are committed.
They can. I was with Danny Wilson, the new forwards coach, a couple of weeks ago, and he is worried about the Japanese side. You know, Alistair Rogers, the former All Black analyst, is now coaching Samoa. He's from Port Talbot, where I'm from, in Wales, so we're all over the place as well.
Well, you wouldn't stay there, would you?
He tells me the Samoan boys are right up for it. They're smashing each other in training.
Injuries again in the pool games.
Exactly, big hits. Russia, you know, unknown. Lynn Jones, the former Ospreys coach, he's coaching them. So there's lots of different, you know, backstories to all of these. But I think Japan, having watched them a little bit against New Zealand last year, knowing the type of players, the mixer they've got, you know, playing at home, why not create another upset like they did against South Africa in the last World Cup?
Down in Brighton, I remember it well. Well, for those who are going to South Africa, thank you to Sean Holley. His knowledge of the game is second to none, and he's going to be down with us in Japan. So we'll have plenty more to talk about. Sean,
can't wait, mate.
As always.
Good to see you.
One take, Holley.
Hey, no problem.
One take, Holley.
Cooch and Holley show.